Well, we have another January 6th hearing. This is what, hearing number 9, 10, 11, 12? So today's hearing is all about tying Trump to these far-right extremist groups, like the Proud Boys, Oath Keepers. So I'm just going to give you an update here. Welcome back to the channel, Culture Confederacy here. It is Tuesday, pipe and coffee in hand as always. It says the committee will examine Trump's team's ties to far-right groups, some of whom invaded the U.S. Capitol. At least one additional committee hearing is expected next week, Select Committee aides said. The last January 6th committee hearing was hosted on June 28th. Former Oath Keeper testifies group uses violence, intimidation, propaganda to push message. Why is this new? Former Oath Keeper spokesperson Jason Van Tantenhove testified in person Tuesday that the far-right extremist group enlisted tactics of intimidation and lies to push their rhetoric. Quote, I think we saw a glimpse of what the vision of the Oath Keepers is on January 6th. It doesn't necessarily include the rule of law. It includes violence. It includes trying to get their way through lies, through deceit, through intimidation, and through the perpetration. Can I talk today? For perpetration of violence. There you go. The swaying of people who may not know better through lies and rhetoric and propaganda. They can get swept up in these moments. And I'll admit, I was swept up at one point as well, but I don't know if that answers the question, he said. Van Tantenhove also stated that he broke from the extremist group after he heard fellow members stating they didn't believe in the Holocaust. Now back it up here for a moment. Why are we having hearings on what happened in 2020 with all these riots? I am demanding a hearing regarding the 2020 riots. After George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, all these incidents, all these cities that were burned down, I want to know who was involved with that. Who orchestrated that? Who gave the command to go and loot, riot, and burn down these cities? Who allowed it to happen? Can we call that an insurrection? Didn't they burn down the courthouse in Portland? So if the rhinos in D.C., the stupid Republican Party, had any balls at all, they would come out immediately and say, we're going to start holding hearings regarding the 2020 riots. That's exactly what they need to do. This is just another attempt, as I've said before, to go after Trump, to make sure Trump doesn't run in 2024. That's exactly what this is about. So Tantenhove says he ran into a group of core members of the group of the Oath Keepers and some associates, and they were having a conversation at that public area where they were talking about how the Holocaust was not real. Quote in, that was, for me, something I could not abide. Okay, his grammar is way off here. And that was, for me, something I just could not abide. Shouldn't it be not abide by? This guy doesn't sound like the most intelligent guy on the planet. Trump revised the Ellipse rally speech to put pressure on Mike Pence. According to testimony and records from the National Archives. Oh yeah, I did a video about the National Archives a while back, how they started calling everything structural racism, and we're getting rid of these documents, or relabeling these documents with warnings that they might be offensive to minority groups. The good old National Archives. But according to the National Archives, Trump revised his January 6th rally speech to put pressure on the then Vice President Mike Pence to overturn election results. Well, I can guarantee you, if the roles were reversed here, it was 2020 election, and let's say that Biden and Kamala Harris had lost, don't you think that Biden would have been putting pressure on Kamala Harris to find out if there were any fraudulent votes? I guarantee that's what would happen. So these Democrats, and I'm an independent voter, these Democrats who are holding this hearing are the biggest hypocrites on the planet. You engaged in insurrection in 2020. You burned down cities. You looted. You rioted. And now you're going to act all innocent as though you were offended on January 6th at the U.S. Capitol building? And I must say this again, Trump never told his supporters once, go back, check the speech, never once did he tell his supporters to loot, riot, burn down the Capitol building, loot and riot in D.C., harass people of Congress, to engage in insurrection. He told them we're going to march peacefully and patriotically to the Capitol. That's what he said. Peacefully and patriotically to the Capitol to make our voices heard. That's exactly what Trump said. But for some reason, they don't want to play that clip in this hearing. Mr. Kingsinger, Miss Cheney, or is it Mrs. Cheney? Is Dick Cheney still alive? So Representative Stephanie Murphy, Democrat of Florida, of course it all goes back to Florida. I'm from Florida, Tampa Bay area originally. Trust me when I tell you that Florida is a transient state. So don't trust half of these politicians in Florida, Republican or Democrat. She said that President Trump's edits continued into the morning of January 6th. And as you can see from the president's daily diary here, the president spoke to his chief speechwriter, Stephen Miller, for over 25 minutes that morning following his call with Mr. Miller. President Trump inserted for the first time a line in his speech that said, quote, "And we will see whether Mike Pence enters history as a truly great and courageous leader. All he has to do is refer the illegally submitted electoral votes back to the states that were given false and fraudulent information where they want to recertify." Okay, so if there's a question of whether or not there were fraudulent votes, don't you think you Democrats should investigate that? Oh, well, we don't want to do that because if we did that, then that would make us look bad because there could be a possibility that there were narrow cases of fraud, but we're not going to investigate that. Let's just skip over that. Because Biden won with all these votes, right? More votes than Obama in certain districts. Got to scratch your head on that one. I mean, wasn't Obama the most popular president ever? Take a sip of my coffee here, clear my throat, and forge ahead. Quote, no prior version of this speech has referenced Vice President Pence or his role during the joint session on January 6th. These last-minute edits by President Trump to his speech were part of the president's pressure campaign against his own vice president. Well, should I say it again? The roles were reversed here. Biden lost, I can guarantee you that Biden would have been pressuring Kamala Harris to do the same thing. And he would have been revising his speech. But not everyone wanted these lines regarding the vice president included in the president's speech, including White House lawyer Eric Hirschman. Oh, here's one for you. Trump propped open awful door. I'm doing this on take 4. All right, this is what happens when you read things cold, folks. Trump propped Oval Office door open, say that 10 times, to hear supporters gathering on day before January 6th. Oh my gosh, that's a major crime. He propped the door open to the Oval Office to hear his supporters gather on the day before January 6th, January 5th. Former Trump administration staffers told the January 6th committee that the president opened the door of the Oval Office to the White House Rose Garden so he could hear his supporters gathering on January 5th, the day before the rally. Representative Stephanie Murphy, Democrat, Florida, going back to Florida, quote, through the open door of the Oval Office, the president could hear the sound of the crowd in the music at the rally at the Freedom Plaza. And these are some of the things that they were saying here at the plaza, just blocks from where the president sat that evening, excited for the next day. I guess they were playing a clip of these things that were said. Why don't we show clips? Well, like I said, let's have these hearings on what happened during 2020 with all these riots, all the looting, burning down of these cities. What exactly went down with that courthouse in Portland? I'd like to know. I'd like to know who was behind that. Give me some names. Who was there the day before planning to burn down that courthouse? Who orchestrated that? Where did the money come from to fund these groups going into these cities to loot, riot, and burn down these cities? Why don't you answer that one, Democrats? In addition, Nicholas Luna stated, there's a name for you, Nicholas Luna. Yes, I'm going to take somebody whose name is Nicholas Luna seriously. He stated, quote, I was in the office in the Oval Office, and he had asked me to open the door so that he could hear, I guess, there was a concert or something going on. Trump said, quote, made a comment. I don't remember specifically what he said. There you go. I don't remember specifically what he said, but there was a lot of energy, Luna continued. You don't remember what Trump said. This goes back to he said, that she said, that I said, that you said, that they said, something to the effect of. Thank you, Ms. Hutchinson. We don't know what was said, but something was said, something was said by somebody somewhere. We don't know what was said, but we know that it was said. So let's just say what it was. But we can't do that because we don't know who said what, but we know something was said by somebody because he said, she said, that I said, that you said, that she said, that they said. That we all said, we don't know what it is. The lunacy, folks, the lunacy and illogic of these people in D.C. Judd Deere, former White House communications aide, testified that Trump, quote, continued to reference being able to hear them outside. There's no crime against that. Hearing your supporters. Testimony reveals concerns about the January 6th rally were brought to the attention of Mark Meadows. Mark Meadows. Thinking of Mike Pence. Mark Meadows. So there was concerns about the rally. Well, if you knew there was going to be a large crowd there in D.C. Because Trump had asked for additional security, did he not? He asked for these National Guard troops, and guess who turned that down? Nancy Pelosi. Oh, that's not being mentioned in this hearing, is it? Former Trump campaign spokesperson and January 6th rally organizer Katrina Pearson testified that she detailed to then White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows concerns regarding January 6th rally attendees days before. What I think I even texted him some of my early concerns, but I did briefly go over some of the concerns that I had raised with everybody, with Alex Jones, Ali Alexander, and some of the rhetoric that they were doing. I probably mentioned to him that they had already caused trouble at other Capitol, that's an incomplete sentence here, or at the previous event, the previous march that they did for protesting, and I just had a concern about it, Pearson told the committee, according to videos shown Tuesday. And this is all being done via video. You notice that? All these video clips. Were these video clips rehearsed? I mean, because if there was nothing to hide here, and the Democrats were squeaky clean, they would have all these people on the stand, and they would actually have people from the opposing party there asking questions, but they're not doing that. Why is that? If you want to get to the bottom of what happened January 6th, shouldn't all sides be heard? I mean, wouldn't that be the proper, prudent thing to do? Well, we can't do that because we know Trump is bad. That's all you got to know is Trump is bad. That's our whole premise here. Never mind the fact that Nancy Pelosi downplayed the need for additional security. Representative Stephanie Murphy, Democrat, Florida, stated that Pearson was concerned by the fact longtime Trump advisor Roger Stone, conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, and far-right activist Ali Alexander are being considered as speakers at the event. Committee alleges far-right groups aligning to work together on January 6th allied with Flynn and Stone. So I guess there was this big cabal in the back room somewhere in D.C. with Trump and Flynn and Stone and the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, and they all got together on one stormy evening at midnight. Somebody may have been smoking a cigar. They may have been drinking some cognac, even though Trump doesn't smoke or drink. And they all devised this plan for January 6th to overtake the U.S. Capitol building. even though Trump has denounced the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. So that's just the latest from this hearing. January 6th hearing, day 11, 12, you name it. Thought I'd come here and give you an update. But why don't we start having hearings about what happened in 2020 with these riots in Portland, Seattle? And what about Chaz? Remember Chaz? Who orchestrated that? Wasn't that some type of insurrection? Wasn't that secession? Hope you enjoyed the video. Culture Confederacy here saying peace out, stay safe, everybody. God bless this great country. I'll catch you next time. And of course, you can always find me at Instagram, #JasonComposes, or at Twitter, Culture Confederacy Twitter. I'll catch you next time. Everybody have a good day.